Captain Lee Minho stared at the view screen as his ship dropped out of hyperspace. The dead world of Kepler 4 for to be hung before them like a gray marble against the black of space. He had been traveling for 18 months to reach this forgotten corner of the galaxy, following strange energy readings that made no sense. "Captain, are you seeing this?" Dr. Park Jisoo called from her station. The young archaeologist's voice was full of excitement as she studied her instruments. Minho walked over to look at her screen. The readings showed massive structures on the planet's surface, but that was impossible. This world had been dead for millions of years. Nothing could survive here. "Take us down for a closer look," he ordered. As their ship descended through the thin atmosphere, the crew pressed against the windows in amazement. Huge towers of crystal and metal rose from the barren ground, reaching toward the sky like the fingers of giants. The structures were beautiful in a way that human eyes had never seen before. "How old are these buildings?" asked Choi Daeho, the ship's language expert. Dr. Park checked her readings twice before answering. "The scans say they're over 3 million years old." "That's impossible. No known race in the galaxy is that ancient." The landing party put on their suits and stepped out onto the planet's surface. The air was too thin to breathe, but the structures around them seemed to glow with their own light. Strange symbols covered the walls, flowing like water frozen in stone. "This architecture is unlike anything in our databases," Dr. Park whispered as they entered the largest tower. "Look at these curves, these angles. It's as if the builders thought about space itself differently than we do." The corridors led them deeper into the structure. The walls pulsed with soft blue light that seemed to respond to their presence. Daeho ran his scanner over the symbols, trying to make sense of the alien writing. In the center of the tower, they found a room that took their breath away. A massive crystal hung suspended in the air, its surface flickering with patterns of light. Around it, smaller crystals floated like satellites around the planet. "It's some kind of data storage system," Dr. Park said, her voice filled with wonder. "But the technology is beyond anything we understand." Daeho connected his translation computer to the central crystal. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the room filled with light, and holographic figures appeared all around them. The beings in the recording were tall and graceful, with long limbs and faces that seemed to hold infinite wisdom. Their eyes were large and bright, like stars, in the darkness of space. When they spoke, their voices were like music. "We are the Athari," the lead figure said, the translation computer working to convert their words. "We have taught the young races to reach for the stars, to choose knowledge over ignorance, peace over war." The hologram showed scenes of the Athari working with other species. They were teachers, helping primitive civilizations develop technology and art. They shared their knowledge freely, asking for nothing in return except the promise that their students would pass on what they learned. They were like cosmic librarians, Daeho whispered, watching the beautiful aliens guide a primitive species in building their first spacecraft. But then the images changed. War came to the galaxy. The Aetheri cities burned as massive fleets attacked from space. The peaceful teachers tried to flee, but their enemies pursued them across the stars. "Who would do this?" Dr. Park asked, watching the destruction with horror. The answer came in the next series of images. The attackers were a coalition of militaristic species, united in their belief that might made right. They saw the Aetheri's teachings of peace and cooperation as weakness, their philosophy as a threat to the natural order of conquest and domination. The final recording showed an Aetheri elder, her body wounded and her city burning behind her. She spoke directly to the crystal, her words carrying the weight of a dying civilization. "They called us fools for choosing peace over power. They destroyed us because we taught others to think rather than simply obey. But some of us still live, hidden away until someone worthy might find us." Her image flickered as explosions shook the building around her. "The coordinates to our sanctuary are embedded in this crystal. Remember us?" Remember what they took from the galaxy when they silenced our voices. The hologram faded, leaving the three humans standing in shocked silence. The crystal continued to pulse with soft light, holding within it the coordinates to wherever the surviving Ethori had gone to hide. Captain Minho felt anger rising in his chest, a fury at an injustice committed long before his species had even learned to make fire. These beings had been teachers, helpers, guides to a younger galaxy, and they had been murdered for their kindness. "Download everything," he ordered. "Every file, every image, every piece of data this crystal contains." "What are you planning, Captain?" Dr. Park asked. Minho looked at the coordinates glowing on Deho's screen. "We're going to find them. The survivors. If there are any Athari left alive in this galaxy, we're going to bring them home." As their ship lifted off from the dead world, carrying with it the recorded memory of a forgotten people, none of them knew they were about to change the course of galactic history forever. The coordinates led them through 3 weeks of hyperspace jumps to a region of space that seemed completely empty. Captain Minho studied the star charts, frowning at the blank area where the Ethari signals pointed. "There's nothing here," said Dr. Park Jisoo, checking her sensors for the 5th time. "Just empty space and a few worthless asteroids." But Choi Deho was running deeper scans on the largest asteroid. "Wait," he said, his voice growing excited. "This rock is giving off the same energy signature as the crystal on that dead planet. Something is hidden inside it." Their ship moved closer to the asteroid, and suddenly their instruments went crazy. Where they had seen only rock before, now they detected massive structures buried deep within. The technology hiding the facility was so advanced that it had fooled their best sensors until they were almost on top of it. "How did we miss this?" Dr. Park whispered. "Because they didn't want to be found," Minho replied grimly. "Take us inside." That opening, a section of the asteroid's surface slid away, revealing a docking bay large enough for their ship. As they landed, lights came on automatically, showing them a facility that stretched far into the distance. The air was breathable, kept fresh by systems that had been running for millions of years. The first chamber they entered made them all stop and stare. Thousands of crystal pods filled the vast space, each one glowing softly with its own light. Inside each pod was a figure, perfectly preserved in some kind of suspended animation. "They're Aetheri," Dr. Park said, her voice barely above a whisper, "just like in the recordings." Dr. Kim Sona, their medical officer, ran her scanner over the nearest pod. "These beings have been asleep for over 3 million years, but their life signs are strong. Whatever technology is keeping them alive is beyond anything we understand." The pods were connected to a central computer system that hummed quietly in the background. Deho connected his translator to the system and managed to access some of the basic functions. The computer told them there were exactly 4,847 Aetheri in suspension, waiting for someone to wake them. "Can we safely bring one out of sleep?" Captain Minho asked. Dr. Kim studied the medical data flowing across her screen. "Their biology is strange, but not completely alien. Our medical nanobots might actually be compatible with their cellular structure. I think we can try, but we should start with just one." They chose the pod that seemed to contain the oldest Aetheri, hoping that an elder might be able to explain what had happened to his people. Dr. Kim worked carefully, using her equipment to slowly warm the being and reverse the suspension process. The Aetheri's eyes opened slowly, ancient and wise beyond human understanding. He looked up at the faces surrounding his pod with confusion at first, then wonder. When he spoke, his voice was like wind through crystal chimes. "Young ones," he whispered, the translation system converting his words. How long has it been since we went to sleep?" 3 million years, Minho said gently. "We found your people's records on a dead world. We know what happened to the Aethari." The being closed his eyes for a long moment. When he opened them again, tears like liquid starlight rolled down his cheeks. All gone, he said. My beautiful people, all gone. Not all, Dr. Park said softly. You're here. Nearly 5,000 of you survived. The Ethery sat up slowly, his movements careful after so much time and sleep. I am Veilthus, he said. I was a teacher before the end came. You are humans, yes. I can see it in your genetic patterns. You are very young as species go. Young and stubborn, Minho said with a small smile. We found your coordinates and came looking for you. We couldn't just leave you sleeping forever. Veilthus studied each of them with those ancient eyes. Why? You do not know us. We have nothing to offer you. Why would you risk coming so far for strangers? Because it was the right thing to do, Dr. Kim answered simply. Over the next few days, as Dr. Kim worked to safely wake more Ethery, Veilthus told them the full story of his people. The Ethery had been teachers and guides to dozens of young civilizations. They traveled between the stars, sharing knowledge and helping primitive species reach for the sky. We taught the Korvaxi how to build their first starships, Veilthus explained as they walked through the facility. We showed the Zilani mathematics that let them construct their great cities. We helped the Threx heal their dying homeworld with new technology. You are like cosmic teachers, Dr. Park said. Yes, but some species did not want teachers. They wanted rulers. Veilthus's voice grew sad. A group of militaristic races formed an alliance. They said the galaxy needed strong leadership, not gentle guidance. They declared war on us, calling our teachings weakness. The war had been swift and brutal. The Ethery, committed to their beliefs of nonviolence, had tried to flee rather than fight back. Most had died during the evacuation. Only a few thousand had made it to this hidden sanctuary. We thought we would sleep until the universe grew cold, Veilthus said. But you found us. You came for us even though we are strangers from a dead civilization. As more Ethery awakened, they all expressed the same amazement. These young humans had traveled across space to help people they had never met, simply because those people needed help. Your species is remarkable, Veilthus told Captain Minho, as they stood watching the awakening pods. In a galaxy that has forgotten how to care for others, you still remember what kindness means. Captain Minho sent a priority message to Earth, telling them about the discovery of the surviving Ethery. The news spread quickly through human space, with people celebrating the rescue of an ancient civilization. But the message also reached other ears across the galaxy. 3 days later, a holographic transmission appeared on the bridge of Minho's ship. The speaker was a hegemony admiral, with cold eyes and scars covering half his face. His uniform was covered in medals that showed his high rank in the Galactic Coalition. Captain Lee, the admiral said, in a voice like grinding metal, I am Admiral Vexter of Coalition High Command. You will immediately transfer all Ethery survivors and their technology to Coalition custody. This is not a request. Minho felt his jaw tighten. On what authority do you make this demand? The authority of galactic peace and stability, the Admiral replied. These Ethery are relics of a failed civilization. Their weak philosophies were proven wrong by natural selection. They have no place in the modern galaxy. Behind the Admiral, Minho could see other Coalition officers nodding in agreement. These were the descendants of the species that had formed the alliance against the Ethery millions of years ago. Now they ruled most of the galaxy through fear and military might. The Ethery are not prisoners, Minho said carefully. They are free beings who have committed no crimes. The Admiral's scarred face twisted into what might have been a smile. Freedom is a luxury that requires strength to protect it. Your species is young and weak. You do not understand how the galaxy really works. After the transmission ended, Choi Daeho worked frantically at his computer station. He had been analyzing Coalition databases and language patterns, and what he found made his blood run cold. Captain, Daeho said, his voice shaking. Look at this. The hegemony language contains hundreds of Ethery root words. Their mathematical systems, their star charts, even their military formations, they're all based on ethery knowledge. Dr. Park joined them at the computer, studying the data. It's worse than that, she said. Look at these historical records. Every major coalition breakthrough in technology can be traced back to Athari ruins or artifacts. The terrible truth became clear. The coalition hadn't just destroyed the Athari, they had stolen everything valuable from their civilization. The Great Hegemony Empire was built on the bones and knowledge of the people they had murdered. They erased the Athari from history, Minho said, then took credit for all their discoveries. When Minho refused to hand over the Athari survivors, the coalition's response was swift and brutal. Economic sanctions hit human colonies within days. Coalition inspection fleets began moving toward human space, their weapons powered and ready. Admiral Vexter appeared on screens across human space, delivering an ultimatum. The human species will comply with coalition demands within 72 hours, or face the consequences of defying galactic law. But Admiral Quan Sujin of Earth's Third Fleet had a different response. Her 30 warships jumped into the asteroid field where the Athari were being cared for, forming a protective screen around the facility. This is Admiral Quan to all coalition forces, she broadcast on all frequencies. The human species does not abandon innocent people to their executioners. Any attempt to harm the Athari will be considered an act of war against humanity. The galaxy watched in shock. No species had ever defied the coalition so directly. Most civilizations folded immediately when faced with coalition pressure, too afraid to stand up for themselves. Velthus watched the human ships taking defensive positions around the asteroid. Your people are willing to fight the entire galaxy for us, he said to Captain Minho. Why? Because what happened to your people was wrong, Minho replied. Someone has to stand up to bullies, even if those bullies control most of the galaxy. The coalition tried to isolate humanity by cutting off trade routes and threatening any species that supported them. They expected the humans to panic and surrender, just like every other species had done before. Instead, something unexpected happened. On the world of Korvaxi Prime, archaeologist Turnzel made a discovery that changed everything. Hidden beneath their capital city were Athari ruins, and more importantly, secret records that his people had kept for millions of years. We never forgot, Turnzel announced to the galaxy. The coalition forced us to pretend we had erased all memory of the Athari, but we kept the truth hidden. Our greatest achievements came from Athari teachers who helped our ancestors. The revelation sent shockwaves across the galaxy. If the Korvaxi had secretly preserved Athari knowledge, how many other species had done the same? On Zelani homeworld, ancient leaders opened sealed vaults containing Athari artifacts. The threats revealed that their most sacred healing techniques had been taught by Athari masters. Even on some hegemony worlds, younger generations began asking uncomfortable questions about their history. The coalition has been lying to us, said a young hegemony scientist named Torkith during a broadcast that reached millions. Our greatest discoveries weren't our own achievements. We stole them from people we murdered. Admiral Vextar tried to silence the growing rebellion, but it was too late. The truth was spreading faster than coalition forces could contain it. Humanity had done more than just rescue the Athari. They had started a galaxy-wide awakening. You have doomed yourselves, Admiral Vextar warned Captain Minho during their final transmission. The coalition will not allow this rebellion to continue. Then the coalition will learn what happens when they threaten innocent people, Minho replied. Humanity stands with the Athari, and apparently, we're not standing alone anymore. The coalition moved quickly to punish humanity for their defiance. Blockades appeared around human colonies overnight. Coalition warships stopped merchant vessels and demanded they turn back. The message was clear: surrender the Athari, or watch. Your people starved. Captain Yu, G1 of the cargo ship Stellar Hope was the first to test their resolve. His ship was loaded with Athari refugees, heading to sanctuary on New Sol Colony when Coalition vessels surrounded him. "Human vessel, you will halt and prepare for boarding," came the cold command over his radio. You looked at the 30 Ethari families in his cargo hold. They were teachers, artists, and scientists who had done nothing wrong except survive a genocide. Their large eyes watched him with quiet trust, believing he would keep them safe. "This is Captain Yu of the Stellar Hope," he broadcast on all frequencies. "I'm carrying people who've committed no crime except being born the wrong species. If you want to stop them from finding safety, you'll have to go through me." The Coalition ships fired warning shots across his bow, but Yu kept flying. His engines strained as he pushed them to maximum power, racing toward the colony. Behind him, more human ships appeared, forming a protective convoy around the refugees. Within hours, the scene was repeated across human space. Merchant captains, passenger liner pilots, even private yacht owners began running the blockades. They carried Ithari refugees, medical supplies, and messages of support between human worlds. "They can't stop all of us," declared Captain Song Min-jae as her ship dodged Coalition fire. "There are too many of us who believe in doing what's right." The Coalition found themselves trying to blockade an entire species that simply refused to be intimidated. Every time they stopped one human ship, 10 more appeared to take its place. On Earth, President Nam Hyeri addressed the United Colonies. "Assembly." Her words were broadcast across the galaxy, reaching billions of beings on thousands of worlds. "We are being told to abandon people who need our help," she said, her voice steady and strong. "We are being told that convenience matters more than conscience, that power matters more than principle. This is not who we are as a species. This will never be who we are." The Assembly voted unanimously to support the Ithari refugees, even if it meant war with the Coalition. Human colonies began preparing defenses while opening their doors to any Ithari who needed shelter. But the Ithari were not sitting quietly while others fought for them. From their new homes on human worlds, they began sharing something more powerful than weapons or military technology. They shared the truth. Veilthus worked day and night with human historians, compiling evidence of what the galaxy had really lost when the Ithari were destroyed. Using recovered databases and archaeological findings, they built an unshakable case. "Look at this," Dr. Park Jisoo said, studying Ithari records in the archives. "The mathematical principles behind modern faster-than-light travel. The Coalition claims they invented them 2 million years ago. But here are Ithari texts from 3 million years ago using the exact same formulas." The evidence was overwhelming. Every major advancement claimed by the Coalition could be traced back to earlier Ithari discoveries. The mighty hegemony empire was built on stolen knowledge from the people they had murdered. Meanwhile, human teams led by Dr. Park made new discoveries daily. On worlds the Coalition claimed to have civilized, they found hidden Ithari ruins. Every time Coalition authorities had marked a site as classified or restricted, there were Ithari artifacts beneath the surface. "They've been covering this up for millions of years," Choi Daeho reported. Wherever the Coalition claimed to have helped a primitive species develop, the Ithari had actually been there first as teachers. The revelations spread through underground networks and secret communications. Young beings across the galaxy began asking questions their leaders couldn't answer. Why were so many historical sites forbidden? Why did their greatest achievements match technologies from a species that supposedly never existed? The Coalition's response was predictable and brutal. When 3 human medical ships carrying wounded Ithari were detected near the neutral zone, Coalition forces opened fire without warning. The lead ship, the Mercy, was destroyed with all hands. The other 2 barely escaped. Admiral Kwon Soo-jin's reaction was swift and decisive. Within hours, the Third Fleet had jumped to Coalition space, reinforced by ships from across human territory. Merchant vessels, research ships, and even civilian yachts joined the military fleet. Every human who could pilot a spacecraft wanted to be part of the response. "This is Admiral Kwan to all coalition forces in this sector," she broadcast as her ships took up attack positions. "You have fired on medical personnel treating refugees. You have attacked healers and the wounded. Today you learn that some species still believe in fighting for what's right." The Battle of Kepler Station lasted 6 hours. The coalition expected an easy victory against the young human species, but they had underestimated both human determination and human creativity. Human tactics were unlike anything the coalition had faced. Their ships worked together like a school of fish, coordinating perfectly while adapting instantly to changing conditions. When Admiral Kwan's flagship was badly damaged, she transferred her command to a converted merchant vessel and kept fighting. "All human ships, this is Admiral Kwan," she called out as coalition forces began to retreat. "They thought we would run when they showed their teeth. Instead, we're showing them ours. Press the attack." For the first time in galactic history, someone had not just defied the coalition, they had beaten them in open battle. The news of humanity's victory at Kepler Station spread across the galaxy like wildfire. For the first time in millions of years, someone had stood up to the coalition and won. But the real shock came from what happened next. On the industrial world of Korvaxi Prime, archaeologist Turnzel stood before the Planetary Council with evidence that would change everything. Behind him, holographic displays showed ancient ruins buried beneath their capital city ruins that had been hidden for 3 million years. "Fellow Korvaxi," Turnzel announced, his voice shaking with emotion, "we have been living a lie. Our greatest achievements, our advanced technology, our beautiful cities, none of it came from coalition guidance. It all came from teachers we were forced to forget." The ruins contained perfectly preserved Ithari laboratories and schools. More importantly, they contained Ithari themselves, ancient teachers who had been hidden in emergency stasis when the war began. The Korvaxi had spent millions of years pretending their saviors never existed, too afraid of coalition punishment to tell the truth. "We kept them safe," Turnzel explained to the watching galaxy. "Generation after generation, we protected the secret, waiting for the day when someone would be brave enough to stand up to our oppressors." The revelation triggered something the coalition had never faced: a complete collapse of their carefully constructed lies. On world after world, species began revealing their own hidden connections to the Etheri. The elegant Solani opened, sealed vaults containing Etheri mathematical texts that had guided their greatest architectural achievements. The fierce Threx admitted that their legendary healing abilities came from medical techniques taught by Etheri masters. Even some hegemony worlds saw massive protests as their people learned the truth about their history. Young hegemony scientist Torkith became a symbol of rebellion when he broadcast evidence of coalition lies to his entire homeworld. "Look at our language," he said, displaying comparative texts. "Half our words come from Ithari roots. Our ancestors didn't conquer this knowledge, they stole it from the people they murdered." The coalition tried desperately to silence the growing rebellion, but it was too late. The truth was spreading faster than their forces could contain it. Ancient Etheri teachers, awakened on dozens of worlds, began teaching again for the first time in millions of years. Meanwhile, humanity continued to do what they did best: protect those who needed protection. Human colonies opened their doors to refugees from every species, not just the Etheri. When coalition forces tried to punish worlds that revealed Ithari connections, human fleets appeared to defend them. Captain Lee Minho found himself commanding a mixed fleet of human and alien ships, all united by a simple principle: no one should be punished for telling the truth. "This is Captain Lee 2, Coalition Command," he broadcast during the Battle of Threx Station. "Your empire was built on lies and murder. Today, the galaxy chooses something different. The Ethari, no longer hiding, began to share their knowledge freely once again. But they didn't offer weapons or military technology. They offered something far more valuable. They taught species how to think for themselves, how to question authority, how to choose cooperation over conquest. Velthus, now serving as an advisor to the growing rebellion, worked with beings from across the galaxy. We do not seek revenge, he explained to a gathering of species representatives. We seek only what we have always sought, a galaxy where knowledge is shared, where the strong protect the weak, where wisdom matters more than weapons. The Coalition's final desperate gambit came when Admiral Vexstar gathered the remaining loyal fleets for one massive assault on Earth itself. He believed that if he could destroy humanity's homeworld, the rebellion would collapse. He was wrong. The fleets that met him in Earth's solar system included ships from over 50 different species. Former Coalition members fought alongside their old enemies, united by humanity's example of standing up for what was right. All ships, this is Admiral Quan, came the familiar voice that had become a symbol of resistance. They came here thinking we were alone. Let's show them how wrong they were. The battle was fierce, but short. Coalition forces, facing united opposition, for the first time in their history, broke and scattered. Admiral Vexter's flagship was captured, and with it, the Coalition's classified archives records that proved their crimes against hundreds of species over millions of years. But the real victory came from an unexpected source. Hegemony Admiral Turson, whose own homeworld had been among the Aetheri's first students, made a choice that shocked everyone. I will not serve an empire built on genocide, he announced, opening the Coalition's most secret files to the entire galaxy. No longer will we hide behind lies and fear. The old Galactic Coalition crumbled, not through military defeat, but through the simple power of truth. Species after species withdrew, choosing instead to join the new Commonwealth that was forming around the principles the Aetheri had always taught. Months later, Veltus stood with Captain Minho on the observation deck of Commonwealth Station, watching ships from 100 worlds dock peacefully together. Former enemies now worked side by side, sharing knowledge and resources. Your species accomplished something remarkable, the ancient Aetheri said softly. You remembered us not because we were powerful, but because we needed help. That is true. Wisdom, Minho smiled, watching human and alien crews working together to unload supplies for refugee settlements. We just did what anyone should do. We stood up for what's right. But that Veltus replied, his ancient eyes twinkling, is exactly why it was so remarkable. In a galaxy that had forgotten how to care, humanity remembered what it means to be truly civilized. The Aetheri had been forgotten, erased by those who feared their message of peace. But humanity had remembered them, and in doing so, had helped the entire galaxy remember itself.